Okay, so
should we start?
Yeah, I think it's try to stick to schedule as much as possible.
Yeah,
got
all
a
right,
big
all
day
right, all
today. Also, by the way, there's a demo day sign up. If anybody's expecting to present today and you haven't signed up, let's change that and sign up. So yeah, right now we have 7 teams that have signed up for demo day. If you want to be 8, 9, or 10, you definitely need to, and you should find that in the Telegram.
Shall we talk a little bit about the Grape back tokens and the social tokens and the experiments that we've been doing for the past year?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Maybe it's a bit more advanced than the usual subDAO organization on the various communities.
Absolutely.
So we've been playing around for quite some time now with the Strata Protocol, and we've been creating Grape-backed tokens. So we use Grape as the base token, and then there is a target token that is backed by Grape, meaning in the beginning, the market starts with 0 Grape and 0 target token, and whoever sets the curve of that backed token will exchange Grape, and 1 new token will be minted. The moment that person wants to exchange back that token, the Grape is going to be returned to him, and that token will be burned. In this way, we don't need to have liquidity in the markets for that back token. It makes life much simpler for the subDAO if they don't need to curate and provide liquidity for those tiny markets that might be experimental and might not even survive. So far, the engine has been working very, very well, and we've managed to experiment with many custom curves, because the protocol gives you the ability to actually mint the token at a always changing price. Every next token can be more expensive, every next token can be cheaper. And this applies to different kind of communities. If you want to create a product that is going to be using backed tokens for its market, then you can have a stable price with a tax when you buy that token and the tax when you sell the token, in order to have some royalties for whoever is curating that application that you're selling. If you're creating a gentleman's club, you can create the token, which will be used as an entry to that club. And in order to make sure that the club members are not going to speculate on your ticket, you can apply a very large sales tax, which will deter any speculators on the target token. Whoever wants to speculate, they should speculate through the base token, which in our case is Grape. I feel that this is still in the beginning. We have so many more experiments to do in terms of curves. It's an open source. The Strata has provided everything, has opened everything, so you can go around and play with the curves, have a parabolic curve that goes to the moon after a couple of trades, or you can have a much milder curve that will never actually go to extreme values. You can create schemas that reward early adopters. You can create curves that will reward late adopters, or even you can implement an S-curve that will mimic the natural growth of a community, which is going to be slow in the beginning, really fast in its middle of its life, and again, it's going to plateau at the end. Maybe you should tell us, Dean, a little bit of what we've done already, all the tokens that exist in the AMM of Strata that Grape has built. I think it's really interesting to show the people here how we've organized the subDAOs and some of the experiments, the successful ones, but maybe we can mention some of the failed ones where curves just went out of control.
Yeah, and it's important to think about a lot of the different variables you brought up, the royalties, the fact that you have your own liquidity. It is a different way to structure a subDAO. Without this, I mean, the possibilities start to explode in your mind when you really kind of grasp what you're able to do with this. So on this page, we can see that the user can actually set the curve. This is the easiest version. There's a more complex style of setting up your own curve. The curve basically is setting what exactly will be the price for every subsequent token. So just to show that to people, we can see the swap sale. So this is an interface which allows people to swap for different Grape tokens. This one is called the Dean token. The first Dean token ever cost 0.01 Grape. It's on an exponential curve. So now after 253 Dean tokens have been issued, the next one is going to cost 1,785. If I were to buy two,
Dean's token follows an x to the power of 2. So it's a parabolic curve. It grows really, really fast.
So here we also see that there's a royalty. You see there's a 5% royalty. When you're creating your token, you can choose the royalty. Where does that royalty go? It conceptually should go to the DAO. So what we have here is if somebody wants to go from Grape into one of these subDAOs that we have, one that specializes in giving feedback, one that specializes in videography or design, all these different clubs, you assign a royalty, and we philosophically think that those royalties should go into a DAO, into a realm. So right now, we can. There's so many different interfaces, by the way, for Strata. There's Wumbo and there's Strata. Strata is the open source protocol, and then Wumbo is an implementation on top that lets people create their own social tokens connected to their Twitter. So I sometimes use the Wumbo site to show things a little bit, cleaner in my mind. So here's a list of all tokens that are backed by Grape. These all have different use cases. So there's the Grape Access Network one. This is an example of a protocol token, an idea we have, and I'll explain it more on how you can have enduring open source contributions for something that is community maintained, and I'll get into that further. Dean's List is a feedback service DAO. So we have two models really that we've seen that work so far: is a protocol DAO and then a service DAO. But again, these are using Grape as the underlying token, and you can do this with any token. You can do this with Solana. You can do this with Open. Open is the native token of Strata. You can also do this with Grape. We can talk philosophically about why you would want to use Grape versus Sol versus Open or something else. The Alpha Club is the gentleman's club that Chris was talking about before. Videographers, it's a group of people who create videos. We actually made one very famously in the beginning for Barn Dog, where he's on a ship with 6 people going through the metaverse with Star Atlas and Mercurial Finance. What a crazy request that was. So these are all the different coins. Now look, some of these we've never even made. I don't know who made Meme Grape, but somebody wanted to create a token that would get exposure to the Grape ecosystem, right? Like he made this token. I don't know who this Anon is, but automatically people are at least exploring and trying to check out what this token does by virtue of it being backed by Grape and being part of this ecosystem.
And the numbers, the values next to the names of the tokens, you see there's $7,000. That's $6,600 on the GAN token. This means that behind this token there is a treasury that contains the Grape to back exactly the tokens in circulation. So you always know that that token you will be able to exchange it back for Grape. Of course, you should always pay attention to the royalties because it can be really sneaky. The gentleman's club the Alpha Club, that is a subDAO in Grape, will actually tax you 50% if you try to leave. So you should be really, really sure if you want to join that group and spend your Grape like that.
Yeah, so we see here if somebody swaps into Alpha token from Grape. So in other words, hey, I want to be part of this gentleman's club. I buy the Grape, then I swap into Alpha. 5% of that Grape is put into a treasury that's part of the Alpha group. In other words, if you hold an Alpha token, you're part of that group, you're part of that DAO. You get to vote on how that treasury is used. 5% is taken on the swap in. But let's say, you know what, I don't want to be part of these guys anymore. We can see that the royalty applied changes to 45%. So the idea is that this is not a speculative vehicle. There is literally no reason to speculate on this because you are going to lose 45% of it the moment you leave the club. And that's a philosophy that they created.
Yes, and another reason we set the royalty so high on this specific club was that we really didn't want to give an incentive to any really early member to sell his membership just because the club was successful. So let's say since the alpha token, that Gentleman's Club token, is following an exponential curve, although it's very mild. I think it's x to the power of 1/19, something like that. It's really slow. But despite that, if it grows to over 200 people, so over 200 alpha tokens in circulation, it means that the person who bought the second, the third, or the early tokens will have an incentive to sell if we didn't have that royalty. And it makes no sense to push people that are members of a really prestigious golf club, for example, to sell their membership for profit. So it serves also as an anti-speculation mechanism, but also as a reason for early members not to sell.
I love the game theory about it too, right? Like, the longer you stay, you're going to be having a larger influence over a larger treasury. So I'll first show the example we have for a protocol-based subDAO using a Grape token. We started off with Grape verification almost a year ago. That was the first thing we launched. And we were always offering it for free, both the implementation, the support, the maintenance, everything. That's obviously not something that's enduring. So now, as we're moving towards completely open sourcing it, we're creating a DAO, its own community that supports this product. So for people moving forward to use Grape verification, they need to hold the GAN token. The GAN token has a curve that's flat. In other words, every single GAN token always costs 10,000 Grape. The royalty going in is 5%, I believe. And then the royalty going out is 25%. The idea is that if you're leaving the network's treasury will be growing. And our vision for this is that everybody will be able to run their own Grape verification, Grape access node, because that really handles the scalability issue of verification. You know, right now, the Grape network has about 450,000 wallets connected to it. We probably will have massive problems if we get up to like 2 million keeping it centralized. Whereas if we want to scale, if we want Solana and all of these kind of interactions we've been setting up in Discord to scale to 1 billion people, it has to be decentralized. So this is our model to make it an enduring one where, hey, now a treasury also exists, and that treasury can be used to create bounties for development on Grape Access Network. We're going to do the same thing for our marketplace, our NFT marketplace. We're also going to do the same thing for our dashboard. Now I'll show the other version, which is a service DAO. This one's called Dean's List. And what Dean's List does is it's a group of people who like to give feedback on different protocols, and we assemble it into a nice package. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to show like the Discord real fast. So what we see on Discord.
And of course, these tokens, guys, you can use them for the verification. You can use them in realms. You can use them to gate your communities, to provide exclusivity. Anything that any SPL token would do, those tokens can do without the requirement of liquidity markets, AMMs, and all the other services.
So yeah, as Chris said, before a lot of these people were in the Grape Discord. I'm not a huge fan of Discords with 10 billion channels. It all gets a little sloppy over time. So here, because there's a separate token, we can have a separate verification process. For somebody to see anything in this server, they need to hold the Dean token. So until you hold it, you don't see anything.
Yeah, only two channels.
Yeah, the moment you do, you get to see. And we've done so far feedback for Sharkify, for Squads, for Chapter X, and we're finishing up for Gilder right now. So what we do is we first hold a bounty. The bounty happens on Wumbo or Strata, either way. And what a protocol will do is this. They'll come here, they'll say, okay, I want to have a, let's see, sanctuary. Let's say the sanctuary wants somebody to vet their process. You know, I don't have a photo right now. I'll put it another time. What I do is I create this bounty, short name, whatever, sanctuary. Sanctuary. So as somebody that's either involved in Sanctuary or a fan of Sanctuary, I've now created a bounty saying that I want the Dean's List crew to work on, you know, giving us feedback for the next week. We do this on a weekly basis. Let's see. Usually this happens. It'll have created it and not show it. At any rate, that's how you make it. Okay, just assume it worked. Right now we have 5 different bounty proposers, and we're working currently on Gilder because it contributed the most Dean token to its bounty. So we can see the contributors. I am the main contributor here, but anybody could do this, right? So it could be, you know, Steppen, for example. Steppen could say, hey, we want feedback. As a community, we want feedback. Different Steppen users could submit Dean token and try to win the bounty for that week, right? Anybody in the community can contribute to this. And then when we accept a bounty, we remove the funds from there, and then we share that with our community. So how do we decide, you know, who gets what? This is a dedicated channel where we're all giving feedback. Now, the only people who can see this channel, again, are holders of that token. And as you guys see, there's all these different pictures of squads. You don't mind if I share this? So we've, you know, everybody, like, it's very clear who's contributing. I see the names of the people, and we're putting all of we're all sharing different ideas about what needs to be fixed, what could be an improvement. And then what's the deliverable back to, the deliverable comes in a document form. So as a community, we've just figured out different skill sets. There's this one guy, avid learner. He's fantastic at documentation, but he's not fantastic compared to Pontes, this other community member. And these are all anons. I have no idea who these people are. Pontes is amazing at really getting into, like, which browser he used and where it works in the design. So the combination of all these people together creates a, you know, I think a fairly in-depth and professional feedback product.
And by combining all these tools and the Grape tokens and the realms, you've managed to actually extract value from a group of people that otherwise wouldn't be able to provide. They're not devs, they are not designers, they're not your classic subDAO team. These are power users, and identifying power users that will go a step further to play around, to test programs and builds that are incomplete and full of bugs. You need, you know, a special kind of a power user, and Dean's List has managed to actually gather an amazing group.
So what happens is, if somebody wants to be part of this crew, they have to hold just one token. And then after that, if they're part of the bounty, we'll see it. And then when we discuss, okay, how we distribute as a group, we decide how we're going to distribute those tokens after.
And all these decisions can be on-chain votes connected to a realms specific to that subDAO that is using the Dean's List token to vote. So you have a closed ecosystem without requirement of liquidity.
And now every single one of those token holders also votes on our treasury. Now our treasury is very small. It's only being filled up with royalties on swaps. And we've never reconverted back. Like, even though I pay out, we pay out each contributor in Dean token, no one's swapping the Dean token back to Grape. And every time they do that, that treasury would grow. Instead, every single bounty contributor is growing their voting power in the group. Not a single person has swapped back. As they swap back, the remaining people have more voting power over a growing treasury. So it's a really interesting game theory. I think we've covered a lot of this.
I encourage people to join Strata and experiment with the playground. You'll see that there is a more technical side of the of what we've been showing you here that allows you to play around with the curves, play around with starting price, to do so many different things. And of course, you can set royalties to the base or the target token, also in buying or selling. And this is something like we really need to mention, that this is not developed by Grape in any way. We are just really good users of it, and we love what Wumbo and Strata are building, and Noah, of course. And it's we've managed to discover a brave new world that requires less maintenance in terms of markets.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, and we'll take some questions.
We've been promised that this is gonna soon be ready. Currently, we can change the curve, but there's going to be a curve adjuster that is being developed.
So what you can do today is you can set up 2 phases of a curve. You can say for the first X amount of either sales or amount of time, it'll have curve 1, and then after a milestone, it then switches to a curve 2, right? So say we wanted to issue a token only to people who were here. We would say, okay, for the next 30 minutes, all of these tokens are going to be, 0.0001. And then after that 30 minutes, every other token's going to cost 1,000.
And we'll follow an exponential curve, for example. So we can have a flat curve for 10 minutes and then exponential one for the rest of time.
And there's just so many variables to play with, right? Like then you've got the royalties that we mentioned before. So that's one thing you can do with Curve. Another thing you can do is you can use Strata as a way to do something like a Constitution DAO, where everybody would purchase the Constitution DAO token, and then you can empty the treasury that's backing all of those tokens. So it's basically a crowdsourcing vehicle. The implementations we've used, it's not a crowdsourcing vehicle because it allows people to swap back. But in that model, you would be going one way in, and then once there's enough funds to purchase whatever asset you want, the treasury would be drained, and then everybody it would purchase the asset, and then everybody would have a fractional ownership over that asset.
Yeah, lots of current SPL tokens could be Solana-backed tokens, and it would solve lots of problems, and we would have less rugs, less issues like that. Just because the number you see on your AMM is the maximum amount of tokens in circulation, and all of them are backed, and it's verifiable.
One of the best things that I've discovered from this is you get a lot of visibility into subDAOs. Like now we can put a numerical value on feedback within Grape, because now we there's actually a dollar value connected to it. It's like, this is the demand, this is the value of people being part of that group. Whereas within a large Discord and a large DAO, those metrics would just be impossible to extrapolate. Like you would never be able to figure that out. Another advantage is that you can really just focus on one thing to do very well. So the Grape main DAO has actually put out a bounty. I'm definitely not a fan of the picture that this DAO board member chose, but yeah, he wants us to do an analysis of the Grape access network, Grape verification, and he put 6 Dean token. That's why I put 6.1 for Noah, because I'm like, screw you, man. You gotta put a serious picture.
Yeah, a wrong picture.
Put a serious picture. You're a DAO board member, for heaven's sakes. But that's how decentralized we are. I can't, I can't even stop it. Like. So yeah.
Yeah, guys, you should really explore those models and empower and give direction to the people building those, because they are all these things are from from the future, really. There's not a lot of implementation, current implementation. And in order to push all these builders towards the right direction, we need users. So just dive in, play around, make mistakes. Solana is cheap, and it's just really, really easy. And the documentation is very rich when it comes to Strata.
Yeah, again, anybody can do this. So like, think of it as another way for somebody who has no money but wants to accumulate Grape. You would create a coin. It wouldn't cost anything. And you would say, I'm going to offer service XYZ, or I want to create a club that does whatever. And the moment that begins, for people to be part of that club or get your service, they need to, supply Grape for your token. And then you can choose, what you do with it. You can either be applying a royalty to start, generating some sort of treasury, or you could automatically swap it back to Grape after it's been given to you. But it's a way for people to, accumulate and get deeper into a community without having to put any capital as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a bunch of use cases that we haven't explored yet. So yeah, help us out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.